Part 1. You will hear a woman calling a care agency to hire a caretaker. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 4.
Good morning. Caroling Services. How may I help you today?
Hello, I'm looking for a home caretaker. My mother is elderly and needs daily assistance, so I wanted to ask about your services.
Of course, madam. Could I ask first about the main duties you'd like the caretaker to perform?
Primarily, I'd like someone to help her with meal preparation. She finds cooking difficult now, especially chopping vegetables and lifting pots. Bathing support would also be useful, though she can manage dressing herself.
That's clear. Now, in terms of working hours, do you need full-time assistance or just part-time?
Part-time should be fine. I was thinking around 5 hours a day, preferably in the mornings, as she has more energy then.
Morning shifts noted. And may I ask about mobility? Does your mother require wheelchair support?
No, she can walk short distances with a cane, but she does need someone to accompany her on short walks outside so she stays active.
Understood. We also provide caretakers trained in administering medication. Would not be required.
Yes, as a reminder for medication.
Noted. Now, our caretakers usually also handle light housekeeping, such as laundry or tidying up. Would you like that included?
Yes, please. It would make things much easier for me when I'm at work.
Fine. Let's move to costs. Our standard rate is 20 p's per hour for basic care. If you want additional services like meal preparation and medication reminders, the package is $25 per hour.
I see. That sounds reasonable.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 5 to 10.
Now, could you tell me if transportation charges apply?
For morning shifts, there's no extra travel fee, as our staff are already scheduled in the area.
That's good to know. How soon can I arrange for someone to start?
Normally, we ask for 2 days' notice, but if it's urgent, we can send someone tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow would be perfect. And do you provide both male and female caretakers?
Yes, though for elderly women, most families prefer female staff. Would that be your preference?
Absolutely. A female caretaker will be more comfortable for my mother.
Very well. Lastly, in case of emergencies, our caretakers are trained in first aid and can contact our medical support line immediately.
That's very reassuring. Oh, one more thing. My mother enjoys reading in the afternoons. Could the caretaker perhaps read aloud to her or help her with books?
Yes, that falls under companionship services. We encourage staff to engage in reading, conversations, even board games if the family requests it.
Ah, that's wonderful. And what about meals? Will the caretaker be able to prepare vegetarian-only food? My mother doesn't eat meat.
Absolutely. When we assign a caretaker, we always note dietary restrictions. Vegetarian-only cooking is no problem.
Excellent. And finally, what about language? My mother speaks mainly Hindi, so it would be easier if the caretaker is fluent.
Of course. We have several Hindi-speaking staff. I'll make sure we assign someone who communicates well with her.
Perfect. That covers everything. Thank you for your help.
You're most welcome, madam. We'll send you the caretaker's details later today.
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 1. Part 2. You will hear a guide giving information about a heritage train journey. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the orientation session for tomorrow's Valley Heritage Train Journey. My name's Elena, and I'll be your guide. Before we set off, let me explain how the trip works and what to expect along the way. First, about the route. Many visitors assume the Heritage Line runs all the way from Eastford to Westford. In fact, our train begins at Eastford Station but stops at Greystone, not Westford, because the western section of the track was damaged in the floods 2 years ago. The entire journey takes roughly 4 hours, though it depends on how long we spend at viewing points. Now, regarding seating. Your ticket includes standard class, which is comfortable enough with cushioned benches. Some people ask about first-class carriages. These exist, but they are reserved for special charter groups, so don't worry if you didn't see them advertised when you booked. Let's talk about stops. The train makes 3 scheduled halts. The first is at Riverbend, where you'll get a chance to stretch your legs and take photos of the old iron bridge. The second is Pine Ridge, known for its little craft market. Finally, we'll stop at Greystone itself, where you can explore the restored station museum. Some passengers bring food, thinking there's no catering on board. In fact, we have a small buffet car offering tea, sandwiches, and local cakes. It's cash only, though, so cards won't work. Now, a word about scenery. Many brochures highlight the snowy peaks, but actually, the most striking views are of the deep valleys and waterfalls. The train slows down at the Eagle Falls curve, so that's the best point for photographs. A few safety notes. Please don't lean out of the windows, even though some passengers do so to capture videos. Also, smoking is banned everywhere on board. You might see people vaping discreetly, but that's also prohibited.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
Now, let me clarify the timetable. First, departure. We depart Eastford at 9 a.m., not at 9:30, as some travel blogs wrongly state. We should return to Eastford around 1 p.m., unless we're delayed by photo stops. As for tickets, the price includes travel and entry to the Greystone Museum. What it doesn't cover is souvenirs at the craft stalls or refreshments from the buffet, so bring extra cash if you'd like those. Children under 12 can join free of charge if accompanied by an adult. Teenagers have to pay the student fare, which is half the adult price. Lastly, about the cooling heating system. Many people assume the train has air conditioning, but it doesn't. Windows can be opened for fresh air, and in winter we provide small heaters near the seats. So dress accordingly and carry water with you. That concludes the briefing. I'll answer questions individually after the session.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear a conversation between an art student and her teacher, discussing sketching tools and techniques. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen and answer questions 21 to 24.
So, Emily, let's start with your sketches. I noticed you're using a very soft pencil for nearly everything.
Yes, I've been using a 6B because it gives me really dark shading.
True, but if you rely only on soft grades, your lines may look smudged. For fine outlines, a harder pencil like an H or 2H will give you sharper control.
I see. So I should mix them, maybe harder for outlines and softer for shading?
Exactly. Think of it like having a toolkit. For quick sketches, HB works best, while 4B to 6B can handle shadow work. It's less about replacing one with the other and more about balance.
That makes sense. And about paper. I just bought the cheapest sketch pad at the stationery shop.
Well, that explains why your shading looks a bit patchy. Smooth cartridge paper is fine for writing, but for drawing, textured paper grips the graphite better. It prevents streaks.
So textured paper is better for shading, but would it make erasing harder?
Yes, it can. If you erase too often, you may tear the surface. That's why I recommend keeping a lighter initial sketch before layering shadows.
Okay, I'll try that.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
Now, what about charcoal? I bought a few sticks, but they feel difficult to control.
Charcoal can be messy, but it adds depth you can't always get from pencil. For beginners, compressed charcoal is easier than vine charcoal, and blending with a stump rather than fingers keeps the tones cleaner.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've just been smudging with my fingers.
That's common, but blending tools give smoother gradients. Also, fixative spray helps set charcoal so it doesn't smear.
Good tip. Another question. Do you think adding color pencils would make my sketches stronger?
Not necessarily. Color can distract from form if the structure isn't solid. First, master tones, light and shadow, before layering color. Otherwise, the drawing risks looking flat.
Got it. Focus on tones first.
Right. And don't forget composition. Many students crowd their subject in the middle of the page. Leaving empty space around it actually makes the drawing breathe.
That's interesting. I often fill the page because it feels more complete.
Try the opposite. Sometimes less is more. Step back, look at the balance, and adjust.
Thanks. I'll keep practicing with that approach.
Good. Consistency matters. It's better to draw a little daily than once a week for hours. Daily practice sharpens both hand and eye.
I suppose that also helps me develop confidence gradually, rather than getting frustrated.
Exactly. Art isn't about instant results, it's a process. Over time, you'll notice your lines becoming more natural and your ability to observe details improving.
That's reassuring. I'll definitely try to keep at it.
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers to part 3. Part 4. You're going to hear a lecture explaining how beliefs and behaviors can conflict. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 31 to 40.
Today we're going to discuss one of the most widely studied concepts in psychology, cognitive dissonance. The term was first introduced in the 1950s by Leon Festinger, who suggested that people experience discomfort when their beliefs and behaviors do not align. Think of a smoker who knows perfectly well that cigarettes cause cancer. The belief is smoking is harmful, but the behavior is I smoke daily. This mismatch produces tension. Because smoking goes against the belief that it is harmful, a smoker may experience dissonance. Now, how do people deal with this tension? They generally have two choices. One is changing their behavior, such as quitting smoking. The other is adjusting their thinking, perhaps persuading themselves it isn't as harmful, or reasoning that everyone dies of something eventually. Cognitive dissonance is not always about health. It appears in everyday choices. Imagine buying an expensive phone. After the purchase, you suddenly notice flaws, poor battery life, fragile glass. But to reduce regret, people often defend their choice by exaggerating the good features, like the camera quality or design. This is the mind's way of restoring balance. Festinger also argued that the greater the conflict between belief and behavior, the stronger the motivation to resolve it. This explains why small inconsistencies may be ignored, but larger ones push people into action. An interesting experiment in the late 1950s showed this in practice. Students were asked to do a boring task, turning pegs on a board for an hour. Afterwards, some were paid a large sum to tell the next participant the task was enjoyable. Others were paid only a small amount. Surprisingly, the ones who received less money were more likely to claim they actually found it enjoyable. Why? Because with little reward, they had to internally justify the lie by altering their attitude. The theory has since been applied to consumer behavior, politics, and even environmental studies. For instance, people who drive large cars but care about climate change often reduce dissonance by highlighting fuel-efficient features or by promising they'll offset emissions later. Religion also provides examples. Believers who experience events that contradict their faith sometimes reinterpret those events, rather than abandoning belief entirely. By reshaping interpretation, harmony between values and experiences is maintained. Modern research adds another layer. Neuroscience shows that during dissonance, areas of the brain linked with decision-making become active. This suggests the process isn't just mental, but also physiological. So why does it matter? because recognizing cognitive dissonance allows individuals and organizations to predict behavior. Advertisers, politicians, and campaigners often exploit it. By pointing out contradictions, they nudge people toward desired choices, whether buying eco-friendly products, voting, or donating money.
That is the end of part 4.